In the following video, we're going to be editing audio in Premiere Pro. Now, I've already recorded a new voiceover audio. So if I go to the voiceover audio, here's the two files that I saved out. And one of them is an introduction voiceover. The other one is some voiceover to go inside my program. And I'd like to import them into Premiere. I can always drag them from my desktop, or I can right-click inside the project window, choose Import, and then choose those two files holding down the Shift key. So I can open those two files, and if I want to look at one of the files, I'm going to double-click on just the new intro voiceover on the icon there, and here's that audio track up in the middle. Now, I'd like to select which region of this track I want to edit with. So if I play it with the spacebar,
Welcome to Travels to India.
I know after playing that only this middle section is the right introduction I want to use. So I'll place my timeline indicator at the beginning of that section and press the set in point point. I guess that's the set in point icon. Then I'll go to the end, set the out point icon. And now, before I put this on my timeline, you're going to notice that I have this little A1 over here. If I try and insert it right now, what will happen is it could overwrite my existing audio. And that's not a good idea. So I'm going to lock the existing audio just to make sure that I can't affect it. And if I try and insert it now, nothing happens with the overlay. And the reason why is because I need to move what is the assigned source audio to the right track. So I right-click next to the Audio 2 track, choose Assign Source A1, and now when I have my timeline indicator at the appropriate spot, I can press the overlay or insert, it wouldn't really matter at this point, and it should be placing my audio at that point. Hopefully. Or maybe I have to make it active. Yep, I have to not only make that assigned the source audio, but I also have to click on that track to make sure that that track is active before I can put the overlay audio on it. It's kind of weird, a little kludgy, but it works. Once I have that audio down there, then I can use my regular select tool, and I can move it around left and right so I can adjust the timing.
Welcome to Travels to India. I'm your host, Jonathan Ross.
So if I listen to it right now, you'll notice that my music is pretty loud. And so it's also, the timing is a tiny bit off. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit, move it over a tiny bit, and try it again.
Welcome to Travels to India. I'm your host, Jonathan Ross.
Okay, so I've got the timing a little bit better. Now what I want to do is duck my voiceover, my music, so that the voice is able to be heard a little bit better. So I'm going to unlock my audio, select that track, go up to my effects controls, go to the volume, and I need to make sure that I place my timeline marker where I want it to be, where I want to change the volume. And I'm going to create a keyframe for my audio when I want to start the duck, and then where I want to change it. And then I can just click and drag left a little bit. And if I take it down 8 decibels, that'll probably be pretty good. Let's try it out.
Welcome to Travels to India. I'm your host, Jonathan Ross.
So not too bad. If I go back to the keyframe by clicking on the Go to Previous Keyframe button, then I can adjust it down a little bit more if I need to.
Welcome to Travels to India. I'm your host, Jonathan Ross.
So right there I've got a nice little bump on the rhythm there. So I'm going to actually make that be where it goes back up. So I made a couple keyframes, and then I'm going to adjust that back up to 0 and see what happens.
India. I'm your host, Jonathan Ross.
It's not perfect, but it's something. Now you can also adjust the keyframes by dragging them manually on the timeline. You just want to make sure that you've zoomed in fairly close when you do that. because otherwise you're not going to have enough control. Be aware when you're dragging these how you're changing the numbers, because you can notice right now it's going up 4.95 decibels, and if I drag down it can get down to 0, or I can go below as well. So it's not incredibly wise to drag it this way. If you expand that track a little bit more by clicking and dragging the bottom of it, then you have a little bit more room to drag your audio keyframes up and down. But it's still maybe not the best way to do it. It's a little bit easier with the numbers up here. But this is a very simple ducking of your audio.
Travels to India. I'm your host, Jonathan Ross.
So that's pretty much it. And then I'd complete, or I would repeat that process for the other audio track. If I go to the new voiceover, I can select that area, go down to my audio track, make sure that I have the audio 2 track currently selected, not the audio 1 track. Choose the area I would like to start my voiceover and choose overlay, and you'll see it now appears that audio is down there.
India is a marvelous place full of wonder and excitement with...
Okay, so obviously I have some problems there. If I would like to remove that part, it's pretty easy. You can always click and drag to change the endpoint, or a nice tool is called the razor tool, which allows you to cut your file at the time that you're currently at. And then you could actually move that file somewhere else.
That's full of wonder and excitement with kids.
So obviously I've got a lot of space between with kids, which is not great. This is not a very good voiceover, but
with kids.
But I can cut that, move that part, move that part, add them together, and now it will say with kids faster.
With kids.
So it is possible to edit the timing a little bit in here. It's not perfect, but it is possible. And the nice thing about this is that your audio file, your existing or your original WAV file is intact. It's non-destructive. You're just kind of adjusting the timing of your voiceover, but you're not actually changing physically the original file. This is definitely editing versus altering your audio, like you would be doing in Audacity. You're physically changing your file when you make these changes in Audacity. And when you edit in Premiere, you're just changing the timing of, or what sections of that original audio file it's using. And you can slide things around a little bit. And you can also edit the timing later and not actually have it change the original file, which is kind of nice about editing audio in Premiere versus something like Audacity.
With kids.
So that hopefully gives you a little bit more insight as to how you might be able to use Premiere to edit audio for your program. It's not a bad idea to have your voiceover recorded separately outside of Premiere, but as I showed you in the previous tutorial, we actually recorded the voiceover in Premiere as we were watching the video, which helps you do your timing a little bit better. If you've watched your video a little bit and you've kind of run through your script while you're watching the video, then you can time it as you're watching it so that your voiceover is done in real time with your video. So that's a nice option as well. And that concludes this tutorial.